Beyond the Wild.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Wild. We've got an abbreviated podcast tonight. However, it's kind of a special topic, and it's one that Jason has brought up in the past that we all want to do more of. And we'd like to welcome some special guests. I'm going to let Jason introduce Lydia, Jimmy, and Shauna real quick. And then we're going to get into the topic for this evening, which is, in my mind, it's what we should all be focused on. Jason, go ahead. Take it away, buddy.
Yeah. Let me just introduce them. We'll go from there. I'm going to get myself ahead. I get the cart before the horse. So we have special guests tonight. We got Jimmy Bridenstine, who most of you will know. Most of our listeners will know the guests that we have tonight. But Jimmy's been doing photography and trips and focused on conservation for quite some time. Lydia, who all of you know, Lydia Ripplinger, Ladybug on Instagram. Most of you know her as the Owl Whisperer. But she's been heavily involved in photography and conservation for quite some time as well. And then Shauna Hart, who maybe you won't know, but we're going to introduce her to you tonight. And she has a passion for photography and conservation itself. So we have kind of a special announcement tonight, and something that is near and dear to all of our hearts as far as trying to give back to the photography community. So Shauna?
Sure, absolutely. And timing is everything, right? I had been thinking about the importance of conservation and the next generation. I've been on the board of the Utah Wildlife Federation for several years and just recently become chairman. In that time, my oldest granddaughter, Charlie Jo, turned 5. And Charlie Jo loves wildlife. She loves any animals that you can talk about, any wildlife behaviors. And she gets the Ranger Rick magazine. And so she always has to quiz me to make sure I know what kind of things are going on in the wildlife kingdom. When we were at PhotoX, we all kind of were discussing giving back to the community. And as an outreach program from the Utah Wildlife Federation and co-sponsored by Picture Line, we are announcing and will be introducing a registration time in a couple of weeks for Lessons Through the Lens, Kids for Conservation. So it will be a photo camp. And Jason and Lydia and Jimmy and I will be mentoring 4 consecutive Saturdays in June 2025. The hours will be like from 9 to 1. There will be hands-on photography out in the field. There will be introductions to basic photography technique, editing, things like that. And what we're hoping is, talking about giving back, is educating and exposing the next generations. We are all passionate about wildlife, and so wanting to share that and give back so that passion and care and conservation of wildlife in our environment. You know, we're located near the Great Salt Lake. Great Salt Lake has kind of been in peril with low water levels for years. And so the wildlife has been affected with that. I was telling everybody I'm trying to photograph behaviors of the avocets and black-necked stilts this spring as they come in and begin to migrate through. There's a place in northern Utah. I actually reside near the Idaho-Utah border, and the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge is up here. And that is the northern part and flow waters into the Great Salt Lake. So I spend a lot of time there. There are people from every state and even some countries that go through there. And often they'll stop and ask me, and they'll say, are these birds here all the time? You know, are there a lot of them? You know, what's going on? I see construction over there. And so educating people about conservation of this area and exposing the love we have for all the different experiences that, you know, Jason has a different skill set and experience than Lydia, than Jimmy and I, and so forth. And so I really feel strongly in strengths-based management. I have a business background in MBA, so I'm always thinking about how those things can come together. And it just was perfect timing in talking to Ron and Jason about this. And it just kind of has grown, and really, we're really excited about announcing this program and the opportunity to share this with youth between 12 to 18. Those are kind of the basics.
Now, the first question that I had when I heard the crew that was going to be involved in this is, Jimmy, are you going to allow the kids to wear shoes?
No shoes allowed. Sandals are good.
Only.
Bare feet better.
Lydia,
But-
you're an educator by trade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What will your involvement be with the program?
So we're actually going to kind of split things up. I think each of us will kind of take the lead on one of the 4 weeks, but I think we'll all be involved every single week. We'll be sharing about different areas of our expertise. For example, I will, of course, be sharing about birds and birds of prey and raptors and owls. I'm hoping to actually even possibly bring some live birds to one of the class sessions. So I'm really excited. Like Shauna was saying, different strengths from different people. Everybody brings something different to the table. So hopefully we can give a really well-rounded experience to these kids. And I'm really hopeful that we can inspire them to just spark the excitement and the love for nature and wildlife and the outdoors, and for sure help them see it through photography. But I really hope that we're helping the next generation of real conservation to happen. So,
And that just solidifies a theory that Mark and I had about your owl photography, is that you just stated that you bring them with you.
I bring them. It's all fake.
Listen,
Quite a collection you have, though. Really,
I-
so many species. It's impressive.
I do.
confirm she is the whisperer. I was standing next to her one day, and we were just chatting away, and she literally was like, "Zip," and she's like, and we're like, "What?" We didn't hear hardly anything, and she's like, "There's an owl," and we're like, "What are you talking about?" And we went following her, and there was an owl. So
Yeah.
Amazing work.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fun. Yeah,
Jimmy,
I'm on
how
a
about-
mission this year. Trying to see all the different species in 1 year. We'll see how it goes. All the North
Very
American species.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Very cool.
I just want to do it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'm not
That's
sure
fair.
I'll get that done. Jimmy, how about you? What are you looking to bring to these kids?
Excitement, I think, would be my top priority. I remember as a kid watching PBS Nature or Kratz Creatures, going out to my grandma's house in California and photographing the raccoons and black-tailed deer and possums and all the stuff out there, and just feeling this overwhelming sense of excitement around wildlife and being immersed in nature. And that's what I want to bring to these kids. One of the things that I do as part of my business, just volunteer work, is I go to various schools and homeschool groups and whatnot, and I do photography and wildlife presentations. And I view this as a way to do that on an even greater scale, being able to actually mentor these kids in addition to just talk about the wildlife, and be able to show them the importance of ethical wildlife photography, conservation, and how our everyday actions affect the wildlife around us. That's my personal main goal.
Jason, you're not a trained biologist, but you've been outdoors all your life. What was one of the things when we were listening to Chris Dickinson last year? I know that hit you pretty hard. What was one thing that you wanted to pass on?
yeah, and you did mention Chris here. I'm glad it's Chris Dickinson. I was going to mention that, but yeah, he had a really unique way of giving back to the community, and it's something that I felt kind of selfish about, actually, that I hadn't really thought about it much, and my heart wasn't there. I'm just being honest. I hadn't really even thought about it. So it was an eye opener for me, and it kind of hit me emotionally. I think I've talked about it a little bit, but so I've made a concerted effort, obviously, and shortly thereafter, to talk about timing, Shauna reached out to us and had this idea, And, Lydia and Jimmy were a huge part of that too. So anyways, my goal, honestly, is just to hopefully create the same kind of passion and love for the outdoors that I have. And I've found that through photography, my love for the outdoors and all things wild has just grown significantly. I thought it was pretty amazing back, when I was younger and hunting and stuff like that, and four-wheeling and camping and all that with my family and friends. But through the camera, I've really found I don't know, it's hard to explain, a deep passion for all things wild. So that's what I'm hoping to try to help pass on.
There's a natural progression in human behavior. When you like something, you want to share it. When you love something, you want to protect it. So the more that we've all been out there, the more we see, the more we experience, the more we embrace it, love it, and the more we want to protect it. And I was talking to somebody today, and then we were talking about ethical wildlife viewing. And there's so many times that all of us have been out there and we've seen some poor behavior or animals push, with iPads or, cell phones and things like that. And you've gone to talk to the person and they really didn't know. I mean, it wasn't a nefarious, they were trying to hurt the animals. It's because they weren't educated to know. So if we start in our communities, which is what we're doing here, right, and make it available in the training and tutoring and mentoring, then we can reach more people. And that's why we've priced this at just $25 for registration, because it's not a money-making project for Utah Wildlife Federation or Picture Line. It's a community give back, and we're giving our time voluntarily to reach as many kids as we can. And the cap will be at 20. It's going to be first come, first serve. This is the first year we're going to run this. We're hoping that we learn some good things to refine it for the next coming years. And hopefully we can keep doing this. So that's kind of the intention and kind of the structure and mindset that we've had on it.
I know that Mark and I would love to be a part of that. And it's not just, where I've seen Mark in the field giving back, and it's not just in with kids necessarily, but you've got other adults there and you're educating people all the time. One of the things that Mark does really well, and we'll get to Jimmy in a minute, but fieldcraft and setting yourself up for a shot and anticipating animal behavior and that kind of thing. Mark, what would you throw out if you had the opportunity to be there? What would you like to pass on to the next generation as a starter?
Well, that's very nice of you. Those are kind words. Thank you very much, brother. And it's wonderful to hear about this project. I love it. I feel exactly like Jason's describing. I mean, it's what better opportunity to give back to the next generation and the people around them, their supporting cast, their parents, that bring them to realize this is a possibility and spark an interest in nature and conservation. And as Shauna, you were saying, I mean, in a safe and comfortable way to interact. A lot of people, adults, and even more so children, don't know how to approach a situation like this, whether it's big animals or tiny birds or caterpillars, whatever it might be, or landscapes. Having your mentoring and, skilled people listening to this podcast too, mentoring people too, that allows a transition for them to have a better experience, a safer experience, and a more rewarding experience. So all of it, I love hearing this. I hope, there's no reason for it not to be a huge success, especially with all four of you involved. And I'm hoping it grows. And yeah, this is very exciting and a great, wonderful project.
Well, as far as, like I mentioned before, Utah Wildlife Federation is an affiliate of the National Wildlife Federation. So there's, in essence, affiliates in every state and territories, the two territories. And so my hope is, as we refine and this becomes successful, then we have a model and a structure for others to follow and teach them to be able to do it in different areas. So in essence, we're hoping to build a next generational conservation army of people who want to be out, want to protect, and really love, whether it's through the lens or just viewing, right? But we are particularly focusing on photography to start, and get people out there and really wanting to engage, because we're at such a critical juncture right now, particularly in the state of Utah, as far as conservation goes, with a myriad of species. So the more we can educate, the more we can share, the greater the numbers. I mean, it really is a numbers game if you think about it.
So, with this first launch, this inaugural year, do you have an age limit, a high and a low on it, or what are you looking for there? Because I can see
12 to 18,
5-year-olds
12
being
to
very
18 is what we're going to
well,
start.
18. Good. Okay.
Yeah, there's so many more things, and Lydia can speak to this. I come from a long line of educators, but I didn't go into the field myself. So I understand and appreciate the talent it takes to do that, which has been wonderful for us as Lydia's helped create the curriculum and refine it. And so that's kind of the age we felt comfortable in starting with. And hopefully, we could expand to a younger type, like focus, or, and even to adults. I had one adult ask my husband the other day, well, if she's doing this, how come I can't go? So, like you said, there's adults who want to go too, but we can't do everything at once. We're trying to start with what we know and take one bite that we can deal with instead of, biting off too much at the beginning. So
I should mention I've had as I've mentioned our program to some people that have been interested, they've said, well, if I bring my kid, can I just sit in the back and kind of absorb and listen? I said, of course, you can sit there and participate, and please come and learn. That would be amazing for us.
Sure. And again, like you mentioned, and then they'll go home and they'll talk about it, right? And then they'll teach the whole family, and then maybe the neighbors will talk about it at the next barbecue or something, or, and it is really just sharing your passion and giving back. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Is it triple the age, triple the price?
I hadn't thought about that, Ron, but we may need to consider that.
There'd be a special fee for you, Ron.
I'm sure
Very special fee.
I'm sure there would be. I have no doubt.
Jimmy, real quick, I think it'd be sorry,
ahead.
Ron. Yeah, but real quick, I think it'd be interesting just to maybe expand a little bit more on the structure of the program, because one of the main goals for all of us, I know, is to make sure that anybody involved has a great experience. And we are hoping that by the end of this month of weekend sessions, that everybody will be able to leave there with some good images and an understanding of how to shoot their camera in manual mode so that they can go out and practice and start creating their own images. So Lydia has been huge in that. I mean, she's straightened us out more than once on like the direction we wanted to go in a good way, for sure.
Sure.
But maybe Lydia, you can just speak a little bit to that, just on the weekly structure, kind of what we're doing.
Yeah, so we'll have a class session first, and then we'll go out in the field and do some practical application of what we've learned. So we're hoping that we can start out each session with kind of a photo review and go over what the kids have been working on. And then from there, we'll have 2 segments of each class session. We'll have a conservation segment where we'll talk about different animals and different issues that we're facing right now. And then we'll also have a camera session, a photography session, where we'll focus one week, maybe we'll teach them about aperture, and then the next week we'll focus on some shutter speed, and we'll go through the weeks in that way. And then after that, we go out and do actual physical practice in the field, because as we all know, it's that hands-on practicing time that actually creates the learning, the lasting effects there. So plus that gives us an opportunity to say, hey, we learned about birds today. Do you remember this bird that we learned at? Do you see it up there in the sky? And, we can just seeing it all in the field. So I personally think that second half of class where we're out there practicing is going to be the most beneficial and the most exciting. That's where, like Jimmy was saying, it's going to spark the excitement and the love for nature for the kids.
Well, and Jason, maybe you can speak a little bit to the place we're going to be actually photographing.
Yeah, right now our plan is to spend our time at Antelope Island. Antelope Island State Park is a great place with some pretty diverse wildlife out there, and it's at a great time of year for a lot of the stuff that we would want to focus on, anyways. So we're excited about that opportunity. There might be some challenges with a little bit of that. We're working on some of the logistics of the camp still, but we'll get it ironed out for sure. But yeah, Antelope Island's a great place, and we've already got permission from the park to do that there. So we're excited.
They've been very good and very supportive. So we're very appreciative to the park people out there. So
yeah. And Ron, I know you had a question for Jimmy. Sorry, I want to make sure we get.
Well, yeah, and it kind of changed a little bit just based on what Lydia had just said. Commented on increasing the love of nature, love of the outdoors. Jimmy, could you expand on that a little bit? Kind of what you hope to pass on to these kids?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest threats for wildlife, and this is just a personal opinion, but one of the biggest threats for wildlife right now is actually wildlife photographers wanting an image and putting that before what the actual animal needs that they're spending time with, observing or photographing. And so I found that when you really have this, excitement about or love for wildlife, kind of like Shauna was saying, that leads to wanting to protect that animal or resource or, whatever it is. And so that's something that I'm really hoping to instill in these kids through this, is not just a love for photography, but a love for the wildlife that we're getting out with, or wildlife that they find on their own. And as that love or excitement develops about the animals and about the nature, hopefully that respect for it develops alongside that, and they're able to photograph wildlife in a way that is best for that wildlife, and that will be able to teach that is the best way to photograph wildlife, and that's how you're going to get the best shots, is by doing what's best for the animal. I hope that answers your question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you teach that all the time in your YouTube channel. I watch your YouTube channel all the time. I learn stuff that reinforces to me ethical wildlife viewing. And when you teach about a species and how they react to this or that, or how you can best, it reinforces it to me. So when I go out again, then it's top of mind for me. We've all been out there especially when you're first starting out. I remember, you see something move and you're so excited. You just want to get closer and make sure you get, the best shot you can for what you know at the time. And I've flushed a bird from a nest before, and it was very disheartening to me, and, very scary. I thought, are they going to return? Are there eggs in that nest? And so, after that, I always make sure that, I'm at appropriate distance, and I'm at the longest, 600 millimeters instead of 2, just all of those kind of things. And so, again, just teaching when they're young, right? So they learn, and then, reinforcing it, later, sharing it again with the parents, hopefully at some point, so that when they're ever in that situation, that they'll be reminded as well. So.
And having been out in the field with Jimmy and running up to Alaska with him and stuff, I can say he is a fountain of knowledge and information on this topic. I can't wait for the kids to learn from him. It's exciting.
Yeah, very cool. Everybody's skill set just has meshed really well, and will be a full, robust experience for each of the kids. I believe that our goal is, again, that they will have a good experience and have great memories from this. So
so for each of the lucky participants, just thinking on somebody who hasn't heard all of the details of it, what about camera gear? And what are they have their own, or is some being provided, a telephoto, normal lens? What's the functionality for that part of this experience?
So Shauna mentioned this, and again, we're so appreciative to Pictureline for sponsoring our podcast, but also they're so willing to join in on any of these kinds of things, and they've offered to attempt to get some loaner equipment for us. We are going to be asking the but participants to bring a camera, but we'll be asking for a specific type of camera, partly because we want to make sure they get A, shooting manual, and B, have a good experience, right? So that'll be part of the ask on this as well. But if there's a few people that are having, a hard time or difficulty accessing something like that, we will have a few loaners available for the class, hopefully. And Pictureline is the ones that are taking care of that for us. So again, it's hopefully that they'll have a zoom lens of some kind that they can get a little bit of reach, because we are kind of focusing on wildlife. It might be difficult to get what you're looking for with a 24 millimeter lens. So hoping that maybe have a 1-400 or a 70-300 or something, like that potentially. So that's the current state. Some of this is still coming together. And by the time this is out, we'll probably have these details ironed out, because it'll be in the announcement. But so this is a little bit ahead of it, but yeah, everybody that comes should be able to have a good experience. And I know each of us have extra equipment that we're planning to bring as well, so that, with 20 participants, with the folks that have their own equipment and what we can bring to the table and Pictureline provide, everybody should have a great experience. So
I think that's important to remember about our sponsor is they're our sponsor because we align with their values as well. And the generosity of them sponsoring the podcast doesn't stop there. They are in business for profit. However, they are in the business of putting smiles on people's faces as well. And I think that, Jens and Colin and the whole team down there deserve a round of applause for what they do and what they're doing for this camp that you guys are getting ready to put on as well. And your generosity too, because there's going to be fees attached to this. So most of what you do, you're there volunteering to give these kids a jump start, where all of us had to start over as adults, and except Jimmy, he was doing it when he was young.
he was born with a camera in his hand, I think. But
Little
And
point
no
and
shoes
shoot
on
film
him.
No
camera.
shoes.
Ron, I just want to point out something real quick. I'm glad you mentioned that. Sorry, Shauna.
That's okay.
I think it's important to know that, and the Pictureline as a company, and Jens personally, I know, gives back a lot to the community, and a lot of it, he is not looking for an attaboy. He's not looking for people to even know that he's doing it. So I think that's a big deal, and a big part of why they're so willing to sponsor this camp and us as a podcast too, is they see the value in it, right? So I think it's important for everybody that's a listener to know too. That's why, I think it's important, not from a support of the podcast specifically. I mean, that helps, don't get me wrong, but also because of what they do to give back to the community in general. It's a good reason to support the store. So,
well, we appreciate you guys letting us come on and visit about it. We feel very fortunate that you were willing to do that, and really want to tell you thanks for the time to be able to do that and get it out there and let people know there is an opportunity that's coming, and it's going to be a great one.
Yeah, we're so excited. Cannot wait. I don't know. Maybe it's the educator in me, but I love teaching these things to kids, showing kids, helping, just sparking that kind of interest and seeing people start to support the causes that are just so dear to all of our hearts. I can't wait. This is amazing. So for kids and for their parents to come and hang out and participate.
Well, and there's nothing like being in the field in the wild, right?
Yep.
it's where we all want to be.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Jimmy's there right now.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Poke your head in on the YouTube and see where Jimmy's at today.
I don't know if you guys heard or saw in the background all the sharp-tailed grouse fly by as we were.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Did not.
On cue, right?
Yeah.
So
Just
also
on
thanks
script.
to Jimmy for joining in Golden Hour, by the way, to participate in this podcast too.
So where, as time goes on with this initiative, where can people hear about it? Is it going to be posted on our site? Do you guys have somewhere you're launching it, just as far as news flashes, social media, any suggestions as we wrap up that people can look for?
We hope that you all will share it, and we will share the links and the landing page and info with you all. Utah Wildlife Federation website is where the landing page and link for registration. And that will all process through there. And then we will get in contact and kind of meet and greet a little bit with it's first come, first serve, and we only have 20 available slots. But then we'll move forward to the next phase and meet and send out, informational packets to those people, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to have some great swag that goes to the, thanks again to Picture Line, to the participants. And we'll have snacks and water and stuff. So it'll make for a very good experience.
I don't think I missed it. Was there a date? Because if it's first come, first serve, when is it going to be?
It will be launched the first week in April. So somewhere around there.
Oh, soon. Very exciting.
Very soon.
So education and conservation and photography are awesome. It's so important in today's age to be involved. And for you, lovely, awesome 4 people, giving back is where it's at. So congratulations. We look forward to hearing how this progresses. And you're all an inspiration.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Jason, we appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Beyond the Wild podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, pictureline.com, your online source for everything photography, and Canon USA.